Yo, what's up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes with DFS CheatSheet.com. I'm here with my boy at Detroit Beastie. We're here to give you guys kind of a breakdown and some bold predictions for. Oh, hold on a second, Chris. Happy opening day, man.
Yeah, you too. I'm super excited. I had didn't have a hat on when we started this thing. I said, why don't I throw on my baseball hat? And before you guys rib me, I have a Tigers fitted hat. I can't find it. So you're stuck with the Rockies hat today, which is perfectly fine. Baseball's baseball, right?
And I've been doing nothing but playing golf during this quarantine, so I'm rocking the no facial hair and the Titleist cap. So what we're going to do on this video is we're going to get into some bold predictions. With it being opening day, we're going to kind of break down who we think is going to win the individual season long awards. We'll get into some playoff predictions, wild card predictions, etc., and just kind of have some fun with it. It's opening day. It's great to be talking baseball again. Two really good games tonight, with the first one being Washington and the Yankees, and the second one the Dodgers and the Giants. We kind of broke down both those games already, and you can check that out on our YouTube page, or on the website at dfscheatsheet.com. There's two videos for that, MLB on deck. If you're playing DFS tonight, Chris has an article up right now that's got two free lineups in it. We'll have our cash game lineup on the site for tonight, under the MLB tab or cash game lineup tab. And right now is the perfect time to join. We've got all these sports coming back. We've got MLB opening day today. NBA will open back and restart next week. There's PGA going on right now, a NASCAR race this weekend. So everything's coming back. We're going to have it all at one time. So we're rolling out a special for $99.99. You get the rest of the MLB and NBA restart, all the content, all the premium content, full access to our optimizer. If you haven't checked that out, there's a ton of tools in that as well. $99.99 for the rest of the year. Use promo code Restart 2020 at checkout and get that discount. It's an extreme discount. It's our luxury box package is about $399 per year for the entire season for one sport. We're giving you two for $99.99 for the rest of the year. So without further ado, man, what's up?
Nothing. I'm super excited. If I remember correctly, yesterday's broadcast, we were going to kind of get into the awards and, the AL, NL playoff picture in the World Series. And we decided it'd be best to maybe chop it up so we can do it again. So you're stuck with us, seeing our faces again. Hopefully you don't mind, because I know I don't mind talking. I don't mind looking at my own face on the computer screen. So super pumped to do this. And like I told you before we went live here, all we've heard now that baseball has started to ramp up and that today is opening day, it's been a ton of Yankees, 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 Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. So all my awards that we're going to talk about, and even the playoff picture, I don't want people to think I'm doing that just to be that prick, that weirdo that wants to go contrarian and be weird. I genuinely do think this stuff. I wouldn't write about anything or talk about anything I didn't truly believe deep down in my soul. And deep down in my soul, I don't have the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series. So stay tuned and let's get into it.
Before we came on, we just talked about it, and I think that we could get one of them. I just don't think that it's going to line up to get both of them, because especially with baseball, there's so many things that can happen, and that's in a regular year, right? I mean, injuries can happen, guys can get hurt, things don't play out like it's supposed to. Rarely do we see two number one seeds ever make it in the Super Bowl, like in the NFL. Anything can happen. I know that they're the favorites. They've both got stacked rosters, but they both do have their own holes, and we've talked about those at length. So let's kick this thing off. We'll start with the awards. A lot of people may not know this award's out there, but we talked about it. It's the Edgar Martinez Award. It's for the best designated hitter, typically only in the American League, but with kind of the revamp of this sprint the season's going to be, there's going to be a DH available in the National League as well. So who do you have as your Edgar Martinez winners?
Sure. So in the AL, I was torn between a few guys here. I like Daniel Vogelbach in Seattle. I saw him play in a weekend series here in Detroit. He's a madman. He's a powerhouse, but he only hits like 200, but he has like 40 home runs. And it was between him and Gleyber Torres in New York. And if you look around the league, not only us, I'm not a professional, I'm not on the ESPNs or the Yahoos and everything. If you look it up, Gleyber Torres is a popular AL MVP candidate. I wouldn't take it that far. So Gleyber Torres is going to be my AL DH Edgar Martinez a winner this season.
No, Nelson Cruz has won the award in 2 of the last 3 years. It'll be interesting to see if Nelson Cruz can follow it up. I think that if we've talked about Minnesota at length, if Nelson Cruz has a 35 home run year again, that could be the popular guy going into it. I love the off the board call though with Gleyber Torres, because the Yankees are going to have to find a way to get a Miguel Andujar on the field with a DJ LeMahieu, a Gleyber Torres. They've got a lot of infielders in that lineup, and I like the call of Gleyber Torres there. Moving right along, let's get into the reliever of the year. And as we talked about this before we came on, the AL seemed to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the NL was the no-brainer.
The NL, yeah.
The AL is a little bit more sticky, but if you guys, I'm treating this broadcast like a movie. If you guys start paying attention, I'll give you little tidbits, and you should be able to figure out who I like in the AL and who I like in the NL based on some of these awards here, because that's usually how it goes. So in the AL, I love Oakland Athletics relief pitcher, closer Liam Hendricks. Before the season was suspended, we had him penciled in for 30, 40 plus saves this season. Obviously, that wouldn't happen in a 60-game schedule. That would be at a unbelievably crazy clip. He would save every game of the season. Not likely, but I still like him to save a nice hunk of baseball games and watch Oakland stay in the race, climb in the race. So AL, Liam Hendricks for Oakland.
And the NL?
In the NL, that was the no-brainer. Milwaukee relief pitcher Josh Hader. He's just absolutely phenomenal. He's the number one overall consensus relief pitcher in any and all formats. I've played seasonal baseball, dynasty baseball for a long time, and I've adopted the all relief pitching status where I don't even draft starting pitchers. I just take stud relief pitchers, boom, 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 and it allows me to load up on my bets. So normally Hader is my first pitching selection in any and all dynasty seasonal baseball drafts.
Right on. Chapman won it last year. He probably is a really popular choice to win that again, given the fact that team is absolutely just jacked, right? So I love the fact though that, and here's the thing, right? It's not to go on a tangent, but we talk about this a lot. There's a lot of people, not saying we're the best at this. And like you said, we're not ESPN and we're not Yahoo, but I love the fact that you have got the A's in a lot of this stuff. And that's just honesty. You're a guy that's in Detroit and you like a team that's on the West Coast that is not in your market, right? And you like it because of the facts and what you're seeing with the research and the stuff you lay out. So I like that. We're not taking the low-hanging fruit here. We could have just come on and did a 5-minute video and said, hey, here's our bold predictions. They're extremely safe, etc. But that's not who we are. So moving along, the NL and AL Comeback Player of the Year award. Last year, Carlos Carrasco won it. And Josh Donaldson won it. Josh Donaldson kind of revamped himself a little bit last year. Now he finds himself in Minnesota. You like a pitcher in the AL or NL for this? Do you like two fielding guys for this? Two guys who play in the field for this? What are you thinking here?
Well, great question. I'll give you in the AL and NL. I'll give you my thought process and what I came to. So in terms of the AL Comeback Player of the Year, I was between a few guys like Corey Kluber leaving Cleveland and going to Texas. What's he going to do? Giancarlo Stanton. When it comes to Giancarlo Stanton, how can you be, and not to be rude and sound like a jerk, but how can you be the AL Comeback Player of the Year if you really don't come back? Because I believe that he is often on the field in this short schedule for knee ailments, shoulder ailments, ankle ailments. So I don't think he plays the full 60 games. So to me, it's Chris Davis again in Oakland, as you talked about him yesterday. The guy, what he does, his floor is 40 home runs, and he didn't play that well last season. He struggled with some injuries, and with the shortened schedule and the time in between last season to where we start now today, he has plenty of time to get things right. And talent, I've said it a million times, content wins out for us and talent wins out for the professional players. And this kid has it in spades. So Chris Davis is my AL Comeback Player of the Year. When we move on to the NL, there was a few guys I threw around there, Garrett Richards, Jonas Cespedes. I like Edwin Diaz. here for the NL Player of the Year. That's just because his arm, it didn't fall off his body, and people thought that, well, he stunk last season, relief pitcher in New York for the Mets. I think he puts some things together. Again, this short season, there's going to be so many twists and turns and so many weird lineups and whatnot. If some of these guys like Chris Davis in the AL or Edwin Diaz in the NL, if they can really click early on, I don't think it goes away. Some of these guys, they can hone in for 60 games. That's what we call a hot stretch in a longer 160 game season, where they're hitting home runs constantly, or they're saving every game every time they touch the ball. So Chris Davis in the AL and Edwin Diaz, they're going to hit strides early on, and they're not going to give it up, and they're going to take home these comeback player award winners.
So yesterday we talked about a couple of teams that are maybe a little bit off the radar for some people. Oakland being one of them, who you're extremely high on. I think Cincinnati's flying under the radar a little bit. And then another team that we thought yesterday when we talked about breaking down the divisions, Toronto, with all of these, the White Sox were one, and then Toronto was the other with a bunch of prospects on it. There's a guy that I absolutely love that I think is under the radar for this award that people may not even realize is only basically a season removed from back-to-back 30 home run campaigns, and that's Travis Shaw in Toronto. That's a big piece to that. If he can come back and he can be healthy, I like him for that. And then another guy, we talked about Philadelphia. Andrew McCutchen with the torn ACL, I believe, last year. He could be the kind of the linchpin in this thing for Philadelphia if they're going to go. If Andrew McCutchen is able to come back and hit 270, 280 and drop, 25 bombs, 20 to 25 bombs in a 60-game season, not only would he be maybe an MVP candidate, but I think he's got a great chance to win that comeback player of the award. Those are two guys I just think nobody's really talking about when you think about Philadelphia and how good they are. And I think people have forgotten how good Travis Shaw was when he was in Boston. And, oh, by the way, he's in Toronto around a bunch of good young prospects on a team that's done a lot to get better and has a chance to really make some noise. Anybody
that's read my content, the last few years, and especially the last 8 to 10 months, when it comes to baseball, I have a very soft spot for relief pitching. I just find it absolutely interesting. It takes me to a place that I love, digging into the holds, the saves, the ERA, the arm slots. I'm a freak when it comes to relief pitching. Like, if you told me you can only study and talk about and write about one position in baseball the rest of your life, it would be relief pitching, and it wouldn't even be close. So again, just telling you my process, why I chose Diaz over a guy like Andrew McCutchen, because I everything you said, I love it. The guy was a perennial all-star MVP candidate when he was in Pittsburgh. So Father Time is undefeated, but some of these guys, they cease to amaze me with what they can do.
I couldn't agree with you more about bullpens. I'm fascinated by bullpens. It's one of the things that I look at on a daily basis in my deep dive podcast I do for Daily Fantasy. You can have the best pitching rotation in baseball, and you can lead the league in quality starts. Your starting rotation can lead the league in quality starts, ERA, wins, etc. And all you've got to do is go back to my team, the Giants, 3 years ago. And they lost some crazy number, 75 one-run games that the bullpen had blown for them, right? And you look at the difference. If they are able to have a good bullpen and win half those games, they're probably a one seed and on. My point to you is that if you don't have a bullpen and you don't have a guy who can close it down for you, they're the most important piece to your roster, in my opinion. You can have a good starting lineup, you can have a good rotation. If you don't have guys who can come in and day out, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I have to look into this. I believe that there's a little wrinkle with this restart as far as bullpens are concerned. A relief pitcher has to face 3 hitters, correct? You can't use the one. You can't use the left
one
pitch,
specialist. One pitch, one at bat. He's got to face 3 batters. Correct.
He's got to face 3 guys. So that's a huge wrinkle in this restart. And it's going to put a lot of stress on how managers use their bullpens. And if you don't have a good bullpen, it's going to exasperate that. That ugly little thing is going to come and rear its head. So we'll move on. The Hank Aaron Award, an award that's given out every single year to just the best hitter in each league. The best hitter in the AL, the best hitter in the NL. Last year, I believe that award was given to, was it Mike Trout? Yeah, it was Mike Trout and Christian Yelich.
Correct. So to me, as we discussed this before we went live, because I mean, I'll be honest with you, I know of this award, but it's not in the forefront like the AL MVP or like the Rookie of the Year, like these big prestigious awards. It doesn't make the Hank Aaron Award any less important. So in the AL, I have Shohani. Is that how you say it? Otani. For the Angels winning it there. He was on my short list again of an AL MVP candidate. I believe he's going to be in that running. And as you explained it to me, the winner of the AL MVP, the two most vote getters or the race, they give one to the MVP, one to the Hank Aaron Award. So Otani to me is the Hank Aaron Award winner in the AL, and then in the NL, it's none other than the young electric Fernando Tatis. The kid is amazing. I talked about San Diego yesterday till I was blue in the face and how well I like their farm system and what they're doing. And Tatis is going to be an absolute superstar for a long time. And his run starts this year, albeit a 60-game season or not.
Last year, Trout did win the Hank Aaron Award and the MVP award. Bellinger won, I believe, the MVP award, and Yelich won the Hank Aaron Award. It just seems to me, I don't think that I would say that it's every year that happens, but it's one of those things like with the NFL has like, their MVP award, and then they've got, the Heisman Trophy, same thing. They give the Heisman, and then they've got their outstanding player. It seems to be kind of by default, writers say, okay, I'm going to give the MVP to this guy, and then I'm going to vote for this guy was close to my MVP. I'll give him the Hank Aaron Award. We talked about this before we came on. We talked about all this stuff kind of before we came on. I keep saying that, but there is like a laundry list of guys that you could get into. And I think that do you think this is an award that a guy like Matt Olson wins or a Ramon Laureano? I know you're big on Oakland, a Joey Votto. Joey Votto is a guy that for me, everybody's so big on Cincinnati. And I think that, well, I shouldn't say everybody. We're big on Cincinnati. Yeah. Votto's got to be in the middle of this, right? I mean, he's not far removed from his best. He still has great at bats. The guy, he can still hit, right? He's one of the games. He's because he's in the market he's in. He's one of the more underrated professional hitters in the game of baseball. You like, one of those two guys for this award. They're not going to be. I don't think either one of those guys, or the three of those guys I mentioned, two in Oakland and Votto, I don't think they're going to have MVP type seasons with, a Mookie Betts and the loaded popularity and low hanging fruit of the Dodgers and Yankees out there. But do you like this award for those guys?
Absolutely. And again, another reason why I find this shortened schedule so dang interesting, because we don't know what we're going to get. And like a guy like Matt Olson, who has 30, 40 home run power in it with ease. And then if you look at Ramon Laureano, who's also, he can do that too. So we don't know what we're going to get. And I'll be honest with you, when I looked through the awards and the list of what I was going to do, and Joey Votto, I glanced right by them. And I've always been honest with myself and everybody else. Those are guys I skipped past that could make me look like a fool here today for saying the awards and who I'm talking about.
All right, we'll move on. Manager of the year. Last year, it goes to Mike Schilt with the Cardinals. They go 91-71. He did a really good job with that, and I think that the guy you're going to pick here is going to be in the National League as well. And I think that if he's going to win this award, it's going to be by doing pretty much the same thing: a new collection of talent, some good prospects. Go ahead and let us know who it is.
Well, in the AL, it's pretty easy for me. Aaron Boone in New York. Again, don't want to get too cute with Manager of the Year, because it's based on your team's performance and how you can manage your team and the games that you're playing, and going to be a lot of weird scenarios, weird situations. I've gotten into a deep hole with that too. All the different ways you can handle a game. There's 2 on, 3 outs, the strike count, everything is in relation to how you manage the game. And it's almost like a concert, performer where he's, go this and whatever. So it's Aaron Boone in New York for me. They're going to win a ton of games in the shortened season. But then in the NL, I love David Bell in Cincinnati. And as you'll find out later in the broadcast, I have high hopes for what the Reds will do this season. And I think David Bell is going to manage one heck of a season for the Reds this year. And guys like Votto, as you said, Suarez, Moustakas, Castellanos, and that three-headed monster of a pitching staff is going to take that city and that team deep into the playoffs. And hang tight, and I'll let you know how far does David Bell take this Reds team.
I'm going to go off the board here. There's a couple guys. There's one guy that I think in Toronto. I'm going to go Toronto. Torey Lovello, I believe his name is Lovello. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
If Toronto finishes in the wild card, I just think that because everybody, and not to get on a tangent again, but we're in a time right now where people want to be inspired, and I think Toronto can deliver some inspiration and make people feel good. And writers love nothing more than a feel good story. And if Toronto's able to do what they should be able to do on paper, I think that he is a guy that walks away with that in the AL. And then Joe Girardi, right? If Philadelphia does what they're supposed to do, he's the media loves this guy. He was in the media. He comes from a monster media market. Those are kind of two guys. I'm not to say I don't agree with David Bell. I think David Bell. I'm infatuated with the Cincinnati team. I can't wait to see it play out. I just hope they don't get off to a slow start, and then some pressure get put on that situation. The same thing with Toronto. I hope Toronto's get off to a slow start and pressure get put on a bunch of young guys. But that would be the two guys that I'm thinking about. Rookie of the year. You're Mr. Prospect, man. You've done there's a ton. If you guys haven't looked yet, go on the site. Chris has put up a ton of content on prospects. Even deep prospects with guys that are maybe 2 or 3 years away, guys that are on the verge of being there. And this was all done before we had any idea it was going to be a 60-game season. So there's going to be guys that are in both those pieces that you've done that may have a chance to be in the 60-man roster that may get some showtime this year. So who you like for Rookie of the Year?
This one, the AL and NL Rookie of the Year, really got me going. As you said, I love prospects. Hopefully, this time next year, a little bit earlier, I can get down to some camps, and watch some of these kids play and actually, broadcast and write from the field, in Arizona, grapefruit leagues and cactus leagues. That would be my dream come true. So, as the owner and CEO of Cheat Sheets, can you please grant me that wish this time next year? But we just need the MLB
credentials pass, yeah.
So let's get back to it. The the NL Rookie of the Year. I went back between Gavin Lux, Kwang Hon Kim, and even Shogo Akiyama, and the fact that the Dodgers sent Lux down because, as you sent me a text in the middle of the night, I believe, because we're 3 hours apart, you on the West Coast, I'm in Michigan. They sent him down. I don't think that's going to dispel his NL Rookie of the Year hopes and dreams. In the NL, it's going to be Gavin Lux. And then in the AL, without a doubt, it's Chicago White Sox outfielder Luis Robert. And granted, I went over like Joe Adell, their young stud outfielder, top 3, top 5 prospect, or even Jared Kelenic in Seattle. I just think Luis Robert is just that fantastic of a player. He's already on the starting day roster. He was going to start in the outfield for the White Sox had the season started in April. So what's the difference from now and then? So it's Luis Robert in the AL, Gavin Lux in the NL for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think the Gavin Lux deal I think that's going to depend a lot on, again, it's the shortened season, and this is a very intriguing piece to it. And you talk about two guys, for me, that could be part of a deal for the Dodgers. So I think there's some moving parts that surround Lux. If we would have had a full spring training, I think Lux probably is the starting second baseman, but we didn't have that. We've got a summer camp. And that's kind of a microcosm of what this season is going to be, right? I mean, because it was condensed, he didn't have the best showing in the world. Then all of a sudden, they don't think he's quite ready. They're going to move him down, and that opens the door for Chris Taylor, Kiki Hernandez, and Jock Peterson, right? That deal not going through hurts Gavin Lux because Max Muncy can play second base. You can move Cody Bellinger over to first base. He can play first base. They've got Pollock on that roster still as well. So there's so much depth with the Dodgers that Gavin Lux, to me, you're going to need a couple of things to happen for, I think, Lux to win that award. One would be Chris Taylor and Kiki Hernandez not get off to a good start with the bat. And then or you're going to need that Dodgers rotation to have a glaring hole in it between after Kershaw and Walker Buehler. You're going to need a Derek Maida not pitch well or one of those guys so that the Dodgers are forced to take these extra pieces of depth they have and go ahead and make a move with the mindset, hey, we've got Gavin Lux. We can plug him in at second base and we can move some of these pieces to go get a pitcher. So I think Gavin Lux is a tremendous talent. I think that in this season, he's just a victim of circumstance. Just my opinion, I think a couple of things are going to have to happen for him to kind of get there, to get in that spot to win that award. But I do love Gavin Lux as a player in the long term. Moving on, we'll talk about the Cy Young Award. And, I mean, you want to talk about a long list of people that could possibly win this, especially in a shortened season. I think that the impact that one guy makes, you're going to have to stand above and beyond in a shortened season. You're not going to see a guy like the Felix Hernandez days where, he wins 6 games or 7 games, whatever he won with a, 1 point something ERA and wins a Cy Young. You're going to need to see a guy who's dominant. And there's some questions around some big guys. So who do you like here?
So in the AL, people will say Garrett Cole. I mean, he's the sweet pick. Put your money on him. How could he not? And that just makes me and you would know this as a professional DFS player. I'm not a professional. I just do it as a hobby. When people flock to guys like Garrett Cole, it makes me want to fade them and not start them. And DFS has creeped into all facets of my life, especially when I write seasonal content. So in the AL, although Garrett Cole is the safe bet, I love Lucas Giolito in Chicago this season with the shortened schedule and that stud young team behind him. There's a lot of opportunity for him there. And then in the NL, I said it months ago, I love Luis Castillo in Cincinnati. Kid's got a ton of talent, but I think the shortened season might affect him a little bit, but you cannot argue what Walker Buehler is going to do in Los Angeles season. So in the AL, I like Lucas Giolito, and then in the NL, I love Walker Buehler. Keep all the Ferris Bueller's Day Off jokes and memes to yourself. We've heard them all, people.
I love Buehler in the NL. I love that. In the AL, I'm going to go with the guy that is on a team that we have talked a lot about in the last couple of days. I'm going to go with Lucas Giolito. I think that this guy's got amazing stuff. He's learned how to pitch. You kind of look at what his season was last year, and where he struggled was kind of learning how to pitch. And we've talked about this with Kershaw. And I've compared Kershaw to what Matt Cain went through when Matt Cain came off all of his success. Power pitchers, Garrett Cole's getting by, and Garrett Cole had 11 straight games where he struck out double-digit guys, and in one of those games, I think he gave up 5 runs at Tampa Bay. But you've got to know how to pitch when you don't have it. And I think that the Giolito, the stuff I saw at him last year, I really like this kid. An off-the-board guy to watch Zach Gallen. This guy's you love prospects, right? This guy's got a tremendous arm. He's a tremendous prospect, and he's pitching on a team that could make a little bit of noise as well. So, Zach Gallen had some really good outings last year. He had a couple of really bad outings, but the arm talent is definitely there. It's a guy that I think can come out of nowhere and make some noise and maybe not win this award, but give Walker Buehler at least a run for his money. Because Walker Buehler, like you said, it's hard to argue with the stuff. The guy just blows people away, and he gets a lot of soft contact when that happens.
Real quick. I have my eyes on Aaron Nola too in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
in the NL, another guy who had all this luster on him, and then last season the shine kind of fell off. But again, these guys, they don't lose this talent and the arm strength and their hitting strength and their eyesight and all this. So just another guy to keep your eye on, because real quick, in the AL, it's pretty cut and dry. It's between like 2 or 3 guys. But when you get to the NL, I can think of a half dozen to 8 guys that could really, really do this for the Cy Young in the NL.
And one guy that I just was looking some stuff up really quick. One guy going backwards real quick that you talked about. Who was the reliever you talked about for comeback player of the year? Edwin Diaz?
Correct. Yeah. In New York, Mets.
What about Jonas Cespedes, man? Right? I mean, kind of forgotten. You think Cespedes still has it?
I don't know what you put me on the spot. I haven't thought about him. I haven't looked into him. As far as I'm concerned, is he going to play it all this season? Unless I'm so whacked out, I don't even know if he's eligible to play the season, given the injuries, and so I have no idea.
So I'm just gonna throw Cespedes in that little mix. So when somebody comes back and checks the tape on us, I didn't leave out Cespedes. On to the big awards, the MVP awards. I know you love one guy here. I know there's one guy here you absolutely love.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the AL, it's talk about cut and dry. I told you this earlier, even on the broadcast 10 or 15 minutes ago. In the AL, it's Mike Trout's world. We're just living in it. I'm not that big of a weirdo to say, well, Mike Trout should win it, but a guy like Bregman or Aaron Judge can sneak in there. No, on a shortened schedule, expect Mike Trout to go absolutely bonkers and not even think twice about it. And then when you move on into the NL, I was throwing a few guys around like Eugenio Suarez, Bryce Harper, but it's Ronald Acuna in the NL. If you look at seasonal fantasy stuff or even DFS stuff, Ronald Acuna is the number one guy. He brings so much to the plate. Steals, home runs, base hits, average. He's a 5-tool player, and it's not even close to me in the NL.
That was the person I was alluding to that I know you absolutely love, and that's Ronald Acuna. Really good team. He's got pieces around him, and to me, the two guys that you've mentioned with Trout and Acuna, if you're going to win this award, you need guys around you, and those are two really good lineups. Not to say that. I mean, Aaron Judge could come out of nowhere and give Mike Trout a run for his money, but the fact you mentioned with Acuna, a 5-tool guy, Aaron Judge can't do all the things Mike Trout can do. He just can't. He's a really, really, really good, probably once in a generation for his body size and the power he's got. But he just, period, point blank, he can't do the things defensively that Mike Trout can do. He's not going to steal the bases Mike Trout's going to steal. He's not going to walk and have the OPS that Mike Trout's going to have. Mike Trout's the no-brainer. You could probably debate the NL a little bit. There is a more wide-open field there, but I do like the call. I think Acuna, he's primed for – I just hope that there's so much expectation on a young guy. I mean, not just from the world we live in, which is the fantasy world, but there's a lot of expectation on Ronald Acuna to have a big season this year. And I hope that it's not too big for him.
I think he's going to be okay. I really do.
So let's get
hard-hitting analysis. I know it's going to be great.
Let's get into the wild card. Who you think are going to be your wild card winners, and then we'll get into divisions and World Series, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Sure. So in the AL, I have the Athletics playing the Twins in the AL wild card game, and the Athletics are going to win the AL wild card. And then in the NL, in the wild card game, I have Cincinnati and San Diego, and Cincinnati's going to win the NL wild card.
So who are your division winners?
In the AL, I have the Yankees, obviously, and then in the NL, I have the Braves in those divisions, the Dodgers as well. And I'll even throw in the Mets. Maybe I don't have this written down. I'm just going by the pyramid in my head, let's say, or the bracket in my head.
So you like Cincinnati to not win that division. Did I miss who you said you think will win that division?
No, I did not. Let me pull up my notes here real quick. So In the wild card game, I believe I said, I'm going to write this down as we go. It's live broadcasting. It's fantastic, isn't it? So I had Oakland winning the wild card game in the AL. And then in the NL, I had Cincinnati winning that division. So if you go through the postseason, let me pull up my notes real quick, if you don't mind.
No. Real quick, I'll give you what my division winners, and then we'll get to your notes. So I've got the Braves winning the East. I've got Cincinnati winning the Central. I've got the Dodgers winning the West. And then the two wild card teams, I've got San Diego as a wild card team, and I've got the Phillies as the other wild card team. I think that the East, we talked about it yesterday, the East is ridiculous, and it's going to come down really to me on what you do against the Marlins and the Mets, because I think that the Nationals, the Phillies, and the Braves kind of are very close. The Phillies and the Braves are a little bit closer to me than the Nationals. I think that they've lost some pieces, but we talked about it yesterday. You know, you may take the Braves may take 2 or 3 from the Phillies, and then they turn right back around, and the Phillies take 2 or 3 from the Braves. And we even talked yesterday. You could see, 500, maybe a little better than 500, might win the NL East because of the layout, and you're going to play like 40 or 43 games in the division of the 60. So, that's the most competitive division. I wouldn't be surprised to see Milwaukee get in as a wild card either, but I just think one of the wild cards is going to come out of I think you get 2 teams out of the East, you get 2 teams out of the West, and wouldn't be surprised to see Cincinnati run away with that division.
You know what I did wrong here, and I figured it out live in my brain while I was talking. So I just did in my mind AL, NL wildcard winners, and then I just skipped right to the pennant, the AL pennant, the NL pennant, and the World Series because I was so excited about this baseball season. So I didn't even really but I mean, I have the divisional winners in my head, but when we're here, we're talking, I have my 2 notepads here with 17 pens. I have my computer here in front of me and my headphones are in, and I'm loving life right now. I skipped right ahead. I just did the pennants and the World Series. So I thank you for picking me up here, Jeremy, because you ran down the list of everything. So if you want, I got the pennant winners and the World Series winners for you.
All right, so let me give you who I think comes out of the American League. I think in the East, obviously it's the Yankees. I'm not going to get on here and say that I think somebody's going to upset the Yankees. It's the Yankees division to lose. The Central, it's the Twins division to lose. It really is. You set a record for home runs. You add a guy like Josh Donaldson to that mix of players. I know that there's some subtractions on that roster. But if you get Miguel Sano healthy for all 60 games, you added Josh Donaldson. If Nelson Cruz continues to be a professional designated hitter, it's a very formidable lineup. It's kind of their division to lose. The same thing can be said out west. It's really Houston's division to lose. However, this is my surprise. I'm with you. The Oakland Athletics have the pitching in this division. When you compare them with Houston, and you're talking about the loss of Garrett Cole, you're talking about, Justin Verlander. I know he's seems to be like a great bottle of Camus out of the Napa Valley, where it just continues to get better with every single year that it ages. I think it's Oakland's division, man. I think Oakland's going to shock people and win this division. And then it's kind of a race, right? I get Houston's got a lot of pressure on them, man. They've got a lot of pressure on them. It's a sprint. I get the bunker mentality type thing and all of that, and Band of Brothers and all this stuff. But there's a lot of pressure on these guys, and it can go really bad really fast. And you mentioned yesterday their window of opportunity, when you compare them to the White Sox. The White Sox have done exactly what Houston did in 2014, 2015. They rebuilt this thing. They capitalized on a window. They had success in that window. That window's closing. So that's my division winners from a wild card standpoint. I would love to see the wild card be the Toronto Blue Jays and the Chicago White Sox. I think it would be extremely good for baseball to have those 2 teams in the playoffs. They're really good young teams. I think they'll be in the race. Those 2 teams will be in the race for the wild card. I'm going to pick them to take it and go out on a limb. But if they don't, they're going to be right there. I think that those two teams are just too good young teams that have too many good young players not to be at least in the mix when this thing winds down.
To me, very well said. And to me, when I do live broadcast, I have enough notes to float me through. I don't write everything down word for word. I have bullet points and notes, and I think I'm smart enough to let that carry me through whatever broadcast I do, whether it be 20 minutes or 3 hours. But you said a lot of things that sparked some comments and a few things I wanted to say. But to me, in the AL, the divisional playoff, it's going to be Oakland and Minnesota. You cannot tell me that Minnesota, as you said, it's their division to lose. They're in a division with the Tigers, Cleveland, Kansas City. So they hit too many home runs. They're just too well-rounded. It's going to be Minnesota and Oakland in the AL divisional race. And then when you get into the NL side of things, as I've said, Cincinnati and Atlanta. What you said about Houston was pretty spot on, and I didn't want to jump in and upset you, but I think Houston's going to fold under not under the pressure. I just think they're just too. Can you be too egotistical? Can you be too, oh, we don't care what people say, hit us with pitches, we like that, we're going to take that hate and turn it into something? I just don't think that they have what it takes, and they're going to fold under the pressure here in the AL this season. So as I said, I have Oakland beating Minnesota in the AL divisional championship, and then Cincinnati beating Atlanta in the NL divisional series.
Let's skip right to all the nonsense here. Let's just go with the World Series, because I know you've got notes on that. I kind of threw you off a little bit by getting a little off track with it. So World Series, everybody and their mother is going to pick the Dodgers and the Yankees. And on paper, look, you can't argue with the fact that they're probably the two most stacked teams in baseball. You could talk about the pitching staffs and where their holes are. Me personally, like I've said many times before, I don't think we get both these teams in the World Series. I think there's teams that, from a baseball standpoint, from a baseball roster construction standpoint, in a series, are going to give the Dodgers and the Yankees a little bit of an issue. The Yankees and Dodgers, they're constructed completely different, where the Dodgers are no longer dependent on the home run. I mean, when you've got Mookie Betts and Max Muncy at the top of that lineup, two guys that have definitely illustrated and demonstrated that they can get on base, and then you open it up and you've got Turner, who's just a professional hitter, the power of Bellinger, Corey Seager, who's really a good player. You throw in Kiki Hernandez, you throw in Chris Taylor. Both these guys can absolutely play. If you get a Gavin Lux up there, etc., it's a deep roster. Their roster 1 through 9 from a hitting standpoint is a lot different, in my opinion, than the Yankees, where you're talking about a Gleyber Torres. You're talking about, the uncertainty of an Aaron Judge, of a Giancarlo Stanton. You're talking about really just the power hitting ability of Giancarlo Stanton. You can't throw in one guy like a DJ LeMahieu at the top of that lineup that has some similarities to Betts and Muncy. But, there's some holes potentially from a strikeout standpoint in a shortened or in a playoff series when you talk about the Yankees. You're going to face 3 stud pitchers. The Dodgers can get through that, I think. The Yankees are the one. If I was betting, I'll bet the Dodgers get there. I don't know if the Yankees do.
Well, here's my thing. I use everything, all these cliches and, chicks on Facebook or whatever, they post all those inspirational quotes, and rightfully so. You can really take this stuff to heart. And when you wake up in the morning, you have a plan of how you expect your day to go, or you're going on vacation for a weekend. You expect it to go a certain way. And how many times in your life have you woken up in the morning and said, this is exactly how my day is going to go, and this is exactly how I want it to go? It in my 36 years on this earth, it's never happened the way I've expected it to. So I'm using that same thought process to when it comes to baseball or even football playoffs or hockey playoffs. Everybody is predicting Yankees, Dodgers World Series. Yankees win the World Series, Dodgers win the World Series. It's not going to happen that way. I'm here to tell people it's not going to happen that way. And if I look like a fool, if they both play in the World Series and somehow a weird situation occurs and they crown the Yankees and the Dodgers World Series champions this year, I wouldn't be surprised. And when we'd look like total idiots, but I just don't think it's going to happen the way everyone expects it to happen. I have Oakland playing Cincinnati in the World Series. And again, I don't want to be the guy who is, oh, he's crazy. He's out in left field. He's just doing this thing for comments and likes and for interaction purposes. I truly believe that, you know. And how many times, another question, Jeremy, how many times have you filled out a March Madness bracket and you're done the first game, the play-in game at noon, you're already done. So things never happen how we expect them to. So when it comes to a 60-game baseball season, it's going to be weird. It's going to be odd. We're going to see a lot of different lineups and rotations. And I think these teams, there's certain teams that are built for a smaller schedule, and we've never had this happen before. Anything goes, anything can happen. So that's why I say Oakland and Cincinnati in the World Series, and I have the Reds winning the whole thing. The Cincinnati Reds will be your 2020 World Series champions this year.
I'm with everything I just said, to me, both of the favorites have got some holes. For me, if I was going to say what the holes are, I'm going to say it's starting pitching. I mean, James Paxton is supposed to be getting healthy. There's some comments James Paxton made about he doesn't have enough flexibility yet. So that's a little bit of a concern because you don't want a guy to go out and throw with, you know, limited flexibility or trying to get flexibility back and then injure something else. So, you know, hopefully Paxton is back and Paxton is healthy. You've got the ace there, Garrett Cole. He's clearly the horse. But then behind those two guys, we're talking about, you know, Zach Britton, who they've moved as he's a bullpen piece now. You know, you've really got Garrett Cole. You've got James Paxton. And then, you know, you've got Jonathan Laseja. You've got J.A. Happ, who got absolutely lit up last year on more than one occasion. Didn't pitch well. Looked like a terrible move the Yankees made in bringing on Happ because he just didn't pitch well. So, to me, the question mark is starting pitching. And here's the difference for me. I'm going to go right back to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers, their question is starting pitching also. Yes, you've got Walker Buehler, who we both think is a favorite to win the Cy Young Award. Clayton Kershaw last year threw more curveballs than he ever threw in any other season. And that's because Kershaw's trying to learn how to pitch through contact. There's a big difference in having 96 and now being a guy that throws 91, 92 all the time. And he's always had some back – Clayton Kershaw has had back issues for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? Okay, so behind those guys, who have you got? You've got Derek May, who I think is a great young prospect. They don't have Ryu. They don't have Maeda. They've gotten rid of some of these guys who are in other places now. What do they have? Okay, well, if it comes down to it, there's a trade deadline that's in August, about 35 days into the start of the season. The Dodgers have all of these pieces they can go out and make a move with. I just don't see the Yankees having the same components or pieces to go get another pitcher. And in a shortened season, when you get in the playoffs, the most important thing, and this is why Cincinnati is one of my favorites, Cincinnati's got a three-headed monster that I don't see other teams really having. I mean, the Dodgers don't have a three-headed monster yet. The Yankees don't have a three-headed monster yet. And when you get in a 7-game series and you've got 3 guys who can give you a quality start and shut you down, that's where you win a World Series with. And we've seen it year in and year out. Go back and look at who's won the World Series. They've had 3 dominant guys or 3 guys who've gotten really hot. So those are the question marks for me around the 2 favorites. I think the Dodgers get there because they have the pieces. And I think it's going to be a really good NLCS between the Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds. But I think the Dodgers can outslug them. And when you put a team like the Dodgers in Great American Small Park for a couple of games in that series, it's really, really, really scary. So I think the Dodgers get there. And I'm going to say this. I don't want to sound like I'm deflecting from making a pick, but I really believe that the American League is wide open. The Yankees are the favorites, but I think the American League is wide open. And when you get to the playoffs, anything can happen in the American League, especially if the Yankees aren't able to solidify that pitching staff.
Fair enough. And I just want to say before we get out of here, I don't often compare myself to other people, but listening to this broadcast, I said this is going to be Oakland and Cincinnati, and that's it. While where you were doing scenarios and situations. And I just want to say I can write I can write with the best of them. I know the stats and everything, but when I talk playoff predictions and awards, I kind of get not ahead of myself, but I get excited and I throw that all out and I just start to talk with my gut and while I'm
Right.
filtering all the stats and stuff in my head. So I don't want to sound like I'm some slouch or some bum where I was just, I just truly speak from a place where I'm the most excited about. So thank you. You picked me up big time here and I appreciate that. That's why I love the competitiveness of the site and the freedom, the creative freedom of being able to write for DFS Cheat Sheet.
Yeah, man, you've been doing a great job holding the place down. Now we're about to take off full steam ahead. Great transition. You just teed one up and I'll knock it down. $99.99. You get MLB and NBA for the entirety of the season. Use promo code RESTART2020 at checkout. $99.99. We've had some people pick that up already today. It's a great bargain, man. Usually these are about $60 a month for each one, and you get full access to all the content, all of the podcasts, the premium content we produce every single day, and our optimizer that has a ton of tools in it. Breaks down starting pitching. I do a deep dive podcast every single day. Chris does articles every day, going to be featuring his bottom of the barrel, where it all started piece. We're really excited to get this thing going. Like I said, check us out, www.dfscheatsheet.com. We'll see you guys on the flip. Peace out.